Hey everybody, I'm Spegtacular, the Silver Stack. I'm here with Joe from Beantown Coin. Joe!
Hey gang!
How's it going?
Good.
He's a real coin shop owner here in St. Pete, Florida.
That's right.
Joe, I saw some blood on the streets out here. It's been some bad couple of days, right?
We're talking about gold and silver spot price.
Gold and silver, man, especially silver. What was that, like $4 and something down in 2 days?
Yeah, $2 a day twice.
Whew.
Yeah, it was quite a bit.
That's not good. Or is it good?
I mean, I guess it depends on where you are. If you have all the silver that you're going to get and you're bullish on it, then it's annoying because you're still waiting. If you still want more silver, then it's a great opportunity to get more, and you're glad that you can get it $4 less than you could just a few days ago. So if you're bearish on silver, then it's good news because it's the beginning of your downtrend in your mind, right? So really, it depends on your perspective. I think 3 out of 4 people in this are going to find that this actually is good news from their perspective.
For me, as a stacker in a long-term one, I try to, go for the little prices, right? I want to see $11 silver. And that sounds dumb to some people because they're like, oh, it wants to be $100 silver. But I want to keep stacking for a lot longer. So 11, 12, 13, 15, 20 sounds appealing to me. When it started getting 34, I was like, man, like, did I miss the boat on getting more, I don't know, like, what are people doing in the shop?
So I would say that there's been a lot of uncertainty in the markets anyway, especially for whether people are buying or selling. So it's slowed things down. The amount of activity, even before the last large fall, has diminished because people are just like, which way are things going? Which way is policy going to develop? How are things going to be in 2026 compared to 2025? And that uncertainty has people sitting on their hands right now. I'm not seeing a large change in volume of trading before or after the drop.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of imagined
a large difference.
Okay, interesting.
And that's kind of that's the surprise of this video, because I think everybody expects that all big price moves happen on large volume. While that's true for the paper markets, the physical stuff, it doesn't seem to be that way. Even in my wholesale explorations, business is still happening in both directions, but I wouldn't say it didn't appear to be any faster, bigger, greater, better than usual. So it's a nimble dance for those of us who have a lot of it and we're not doing it long term. Like for inventory, you have to be super nimble to have large caches of silver and watch it fall $4 and still be able to continue to operate and not operate at a loss.
I guess that's a great question. Does that kill you in 2 days when the silver price drops $4? Is that, as a shop owner, what does that do?
Well, when you have large positions, it depends on the shop owner. For myself, it's fine. When you have large positions of a particular metal, then you hedge it. So you'll have to essentially pay a small percentage on the value of your silver every month as an insurance policy. And if silver falls, you've got a paper product, essentially a security that will move in the opposite direction as the price of silver. So you'll actually, lose money on it when you're gaining. When silver's rising, but you'll gain money on it when silver's falling. So that's how you protect a really large metal position, and all of the major bullion houses do that, have to do that, because you can't be nimble the bigger your pile. And for smaller shop owners, you can sell on the way down and continue to buy and sell as prices are falling. You just have to keep all of your inventory turning really quickly as you do it, so you can make the spreads between your bid and your ask. And make those spreads even in a falling market. You just can't do that on volume. So if you're a store that's really heavy in silver without a hedge, then yeah, you just lost 4 times whatever how many ounces of silver you have. But also, if you're long term about it, does it really matter? You just find yourself, and this is where market prices start to be different, you find yourself wanting to sit on your supply because you personally value it more than the spot price does. And this is where paper markets and physical markets diverge, because you'll often see when silver falls, let's say $2 in a single day, that spreads rise by $1.50, or in these 3 days. So what happens is those of us who have a lot of silver are simply going to look at the spot price and say, okay, well, we were selling Eagles at +6 or let's say +5 when silver was $4 higher. Now that it's fallen $4, we want +7 or +8 on our Eagles because we can. That's really what it comes down to. And the physical supply isn't robust like the paper supply would lead you to believe that it is, especially because of consumptive and industrial demands for silver specifically, and the easy ability, being a smaller market than gold, for large financial powerhouses to manipulate the price of silver, especially when it's a paper derivative of the physical markets that we're actually talking about here. So just watch the SLV, guys. It's not always a reflection of what's really going on with the physical demand and supply metrics for bullion.
Yeah. Joe, I swear you're reading this from somewhere. You're so smart.
You've
been doing this a long time.
I have to kind of ignore the camera long enough to get deep into my head to be able to speak so quickly. And
it's like you just blacked out and just started saying things. That's great, man.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
A little tough.
Okay, so like, before this big drop, of course, silver and gold were on the uprise, right? And everybody was talking about how, shoot, maybe $4,000 gold is coming up next, What were the buyers to sellers like then when gold was $3,100 an ounce?
Well, this is the interesting thing about supply-demand mechanics that people kind of know in theory, but usually don't get to experience. And that's that the herd doesn't move wisely.
No, you should buy on the dip, but they buy on the incline.
And we're all in the herd unless you're absolutely contrarian. And it's a difficult thing to be contrarian and be wrong. So it's, I would say this, that people generally are selling in a panic when silver is falling, especially at the bottom of that fall, which is the worst time to be selling the metal. And the same is true for the upswing, is that people are buying in a panic, afraid to miss out on the opportunities that are coming in the future at the peak of a market. So it's an easy psychological measure without knowing technicals of the markets and how to see price swings and dollar cost, whatever, like average. You can just look at it like this emotionally. Does it feel like the whole world is talking about how high gold is and how much they've been missing out on the price upswing in gold? And the answer, I would say, is not yet. Not yet. And I don't think the trend. I don't think the trend is broken because when gold is on the cover of Time magazine, it's over. You know what I'm saying? When the public can't help but talk about it, which could easily happen, gold just has to move in a way, it just has to do more, a little like more, and maybe not even a whole lot more. 4,000 would probably do it, maybe 4,500. But at that point, if you got a cathartic response from people, an emotional reaction to how high up gold had gone, how far it had gone, and I mean to say this in the general public who doesn't think about metals every day. It's like not you guys watching this video. Do you get what I'm saying? When your relatives start coming up to you, here's a good measure in the real world. When those of us that are metal bugs and are always paying attention to the price of gold and silver, when the people in your life who don't care at all about the price of gold and silver are coming up to you and being like, wow, gold has gone up so much. Like, should I get some gold?
Yeah.
It may be the end of the trend at that point, right? So how many of you who could say that that's been going on? I think that this is still largely under the radar because the powers that be, large financial institutions and governments would like this to stay out of the public gesture because they're not done accumulating.
Like the story goes, you hear the person at the grocery store bagging your groceries talking about gold and silver. It's too late.
Well, that's it. Go home and sell yours, right? And maybe not one measure like that, but if 2 or 3 hit you in the same week, like that, or you just see large public out, it's the only thing that's going on in the news. Like that's the end of it. What looks like the beginning of the public conversation about gold is the end of whatever trend, of an uptrend.
And that's for most investments. They say the same thing about the stock market and stuff. You know what I mean? Like if you start seeing all the headlines in the newspaper saying now's the time to buy, you might have missed it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so these tariffs are the big talk right now, right? And is allegedly a large portion of why the market just sank in the last couple days with this big downfall. That just happened. So this whole week coming up, it could still happen more, right?
I don't think the tariffs have the effect on the metals markets that everyone thinks.
No.
Not at all. I think that the thing about tariffs are that they're a very nimble maneuver in that the president of America, of the United States, has the ability to set them at any level, remove them, add them, put them back again. And that nimbleness in the marketplace makes it very difficult for the market makers to really factor. We're guessing now on the psychology of an individual and his ability to use that particular tool when we're trying to anticipate the way the markets will move in the future. You can't really judge the future prices based on whatever the tariffs are today, as we can see, they're quick to change and alter. So you're not going to necessarily move production, change things like that right away. And some companies are, because they're willing to bet on the psychology of the president in one direction or another. So they're making investments into America and moving in that direction. However, the actual spot price of gold and silver, I think, is being acted upon by much different forces than the tariffs.
Interesting. Do you want to give your opinion? You don't want to?
Sure, no, I don't have a problem at all. I don't need
We
to
got
be
a little time.
mysterious.
We got a little time.
I don't need to be mysterious. I just wasn't sure if you want to go that way. So
Sure.
I think that you've got to get from the perspective of the current U.S. administration that the biggest problem that they've got right now is their balance sheet, because in the next year, something like, I forget the figure now, so I don't want to guess at it, but trillions of dollars are going to come due in interest payments. So those treasuries need to be rolled over, or we have to drop the government spending deficit by trillions of dollars, or there's a lot of different things that would have to occur. The only one that really seems mathematically viable is to take risk off in the psychology of the marketplace. Because when risk is off, people flee into treasuries. It doesn't really matter whether it's domestic or foreign money. The world is kind of one giant market now anyway, and the US is just the biggest piece of it. So the risk-off appetite makes treasuries more popular. A lot of people are buying treasuries, which essentially makes it easier for the US government to pay its bills. So it appears as if the current administration is front-loading pain on us in the areas of uncertainty. We're uncertain about which way interest rates are going to go. We're uncertain about which way the stock market's going to go. We're uncertain about which way tariffs are going to go, or what Congress is going to do, or what he's going to get accomplished between now and the midterms. And so there's so much uncertainty, even though things aren't really going poorly, right? So that's kind of a nice soup. It's a good mix for us to be in. I could see why the administration would want to do this on purpose. Maybe it's not an accident at all. And really depending on whether the world decides that, to agree with this particular narrative is going to determine how successful it is, because everything's psychological in the end, even at the grand levels of state. So,
Sure.
Yeah, I think that if the world says, all right, this is the way America's moving next, and then multinational companies begin to invest more in the United States, and US companies begin to do more of their production here at home, avoiding tariffs, changing their policies based on those things. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for this to actually really pay off well. And how it wouldn't pay off well is if it goes too far enough to force an actual deep recession and depression and overshoot. Really, that would go poorly for this administration.
I would think so. That sounds like a poor thing to happen. I just find the tariff thing so interesting, because I guess I was unread or just naive to the whole thing prior to it being talked about so much recently. But the fact that we weren't putting these tariffs on other countries and they were putting it on our stuff, it's just wild to me. It's like, we haven't been doing this the whole time?
I could get that as a principle thing, but the tariffs are an economic policy. It's really about controlling the flow of trade. And it keeps, mostly the U.S. has done just as much aggression in their trade policy as in foreign wars over the course of our existence. Because in trade policy, we've been able to keep a lot of poor countries poor with the very same tariff maneuvers too over the different years. It's also made America rich at different times, as President Trump has pointed out before. There were periods in U.S. history where, thanks to tariffs, there was no income tax, and the government was relatively rich for its own, consumption at the time and for the number of people in the country. So, tariffs can be really great tools. What I love is the effectiveness of posturing, because, essentially the U.S. everything is supply and demand, right? So it matters just as much who's buying things as where they're made and who's selling them, right? So even in that the U.S. is not a manufacturing economy like it once was, it is still the largest consumer economy, and everybody in the world wants to sell their stuff here. So the president has a really unique position to be able to essentially assert his dominance with something as simple as a tariff, because there are a lot of countries out there that are interacting with the United States like we need them more than they need us, and that's not true of many. That's just not true of many countries out there in the world that we need. And the ones that we need the most are, in a lot of ways, our opponents, because there's this sort of implied cooperation, even between conservatives and liberals. If you're a conservative, you need someone to hate, so thank God for the liberals. And if you're a liberal, you need someone to hate, so thank God for the conservatives. I think that you wouldn't know yourself to be who you think you are in your political views if it wasn't for the other side to show you contrast. So there's this sort of implied need for each other that is the real truth. And I think that it would be lovely to return to more of a Lincoln Douglas days when you could actually have conversations of intelligence between people about issues at hand and respect your opponents. Respect for your opponent is really the foundation of any progressive thought or progress in conversation. And we have too much turned a good point into hate the guy saying it.
Yeah, I blame social media, Joe.
No, because humans are humans, right? Social media is this really great amplifier for the way humans always have been and always think. And I don't even know that we're ever going to think differently. I guess we can just love the world as it is right now, knowing that the things that don't really seem to work about it have always not seemed to work about it. And so maybe that is working.
Yeah. Joe, you gave me the best answers that anybody will find on the internet right now. I don't know if they're going to even watch this video this long, but this is the guy right here. He knows his stuff. Joe, do you have any predictions at all? And this is just predictions. This is not trying to be a fortune teller. This is just how things are going right now and what kind of the outlook will be for like the next week or two. Like, what are you looking for? Like, what are you thinking? Is that tough?
Yeah, I mean, over the next week or two, because the timeline is everything when you're asking a question about prediction.
And one thing changes and then that changes your prediction, right?
Yeah, and especially if we're only looking a week out, like what happened Monday morning, I might change my entire view of what, and it takes so little to move the markets over the course of a week, enough to be right or wrong when you make a guess. I would say that over a larger trend, though, to skirt your short-term question, is I would say that the bull trend for metals isn't over, and it would be foolish not to treat major dips as buying opportunities. So I would watch very carefully on Monday morning, and if there's the same selling energy, I would catch it. I'd begin to start to catch the knife. And if you want to move in smaller batches because you're nervous about the trend going longer than one more day, fine. But I would treat down days as buy days still, especially as a long-term silver stacker. And actually, I got to say this one other way, because this is a completely different shift for thinking for people. We have to think in US dollars because that's the waters we swim in, right? Everything that you see in the world is charged to you in the terms of US dollars, but real money is metal, is gold and silver. And when you see the price of metals drop or rise, what you're really seeing is the value of the US dollar drop or rise in comparison. If you're someone who makes more money than you need to survive in the day-to-day and you're able to save and accumulate money at all, which isn't true for the large majority of people in the world, I would suggest that saving your money in silver and gold is in general a better investment over time, and still so even with all the moves in the last year. So you might want to look at it like ounces of silver rather than dollars. And what just happened was that dollars got, cheaper when silver goes up, and dollars get expensive when silver goes down, right?
Yeah.
So we're not thinking about it that way. We're thinking about it like silver and gold get cheaper or more expensive. But think in terms of silver and notice the way dollars get cheaper or more expensive. It'll change your whole look on the way you save your money.
Yeah, that's good advice, Joe. So, all right, way to skirt the question. I like that very much. But
I mean, short term, I'm probably looking to buy. I wasn't looking to add anything major on Saturday. Saturday it's hard to trade over the weekends anyway in large amounts with the big bullion houses. So, Monday morning we'll see. If the market stays here or falls farther, I'm probably going to make a large purchase of silver. And maybe that's a way to answer the question honestly right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I haven't seen this I don't think I've ever seen it to where it came down $4 plus in 2 days' time. In my time, at least.
I'm expecting that to reverse somewhat. But typical in market mechanics, if it's going to fall $2 and then $2, it's going to bounce $1.
Sure.
Something like that's going to happen probably on Monday morning, which would not have me want to necessarily add to this position. Depends on how much I already have in my inventory. But there's a point where silver feels really, really low that I would just buy some anyway, right? Because I know I'm going to move it at some point. So I will, if it goes another $1 or $2 lower on Monday, I can assure you that I'll be making a large purchase of silver. If it goes up, which is what I think is more likely, I probably won't do anything right now.
Right on. Listen, for everybody out there, we are not financial advisors. We're just two dudes, and one of the dudes owns a coin shop.
And one of them has a lot at stake with these kind of questions and actually puts his skin in the game and lives out on the court, not up in the stands. So,
well, there you go.
You know.
Joe, thank you for your time. Where are we at, by the way? Let's talk about like where you are so I can put some stuff in the description for people that want to check you out.
Sure, we're Beantown Coins. We're in St. Petersburg, Florida. We've got Beantown CoinsFL on Instagram. We've got a TikTok channel. You can look us up. Just search Beantown Coins almost anywhere you go on their socials. Come to our website, beantowncoins.com. Stop in the store. Our phone number will probably be below.
Absolutely.
Reach out to us any way that you want. We're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we do live daily auctions on Whatnot every afternoon, so look for us there. But we're very reachable, and we answer questions. We do free appraisals. So if there's anything that you ever need in the world of numismatics, reach out.
Joe's the real deal. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.
Well, hello, everybody. I seek to educate and entertain through my journey of collecting coins and stacking precious metals. I encourage you to subscribe, and please stay with me on this journey. I am Spegtacular, the Silver Stacular. You know, when I was a kid, we did this every day in school, and I believe we need to bring this back a little bit, and I'm going to start right now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.